This is a download from BFM 89.9, the business station.
You're listening to Open for Business, brought to you by the Malaysia Digital Economy Corporation, MDEC. Good morning, this is Freda Liu, and Medical Opinion Asia is an online portal with a panel of doctors and specialists, and it plans to be an easy solution for anyone looking for a second opinion from the comfort of their home with all the privacy in tow. I'm here with Stuart Pack, the man behind Medical Opinion Asia. I'm going to find out a little bit about this because I think this is quite a novel thing in this part of the world, but how does it work, Stuart?
Okay, well, first of all, morning, Freda. It's nice to be here, and thank you for the invitation. Yes, it's a new service, and one that I've put together because for many years I've been asked questions by members of the public if they have a problem with their illness or they want to see a doctor. Often they don't know who to turn to, and particularly if they want another opinion. And as this business now has seemed to take on quite a life of its own in other countries, I felt it was timely to do this also in Malaysia, and to help people get that access to an opinion from a specialist without too much trouble. I think generally the culture that we have at the moment is one that people tend to be a little bit shy, and they don't know where to turn to if they want another opinion. So this basically allows them to get that opinion in the best possible way. We have a panel of specialists, of course, and on our portal one can see the doctors, see a picture of the doctors, as well as seeing their CV. So they know exactly where they've been trained and what their interests are. And I think by doing this, I'm bringing the doctors closer to the patients and closer to the public. So this is why I've set it up. And hopefully that the public will start to move towards this way of getting an opinion. In America right now, almost 20% of patients are seeking second opinion. So it's not as though this is new. This is actually well tested. Australia has been showing figures of 17% of the patients taking up second opinion. And in Europe is seeing similar numbers. What's interesting, of course, is that now patients who are diagnosed with cancer are more likely to be looking for a second opinion. They just want peace of mind that what they've been told is correct, or the mode of treatment is correct. So they just want to hear it from somebody else. And they may hear another doctor saying, well, actually, yes, I fully agree with what has been said. And that in itself makes the patient feel better.
Right. Okay. So, and how do you go about selecting the doctors and specialists on your panel?
I've been very lucky. I've been involved in the management of some of the best hospitals here in the country. And through that, I've got to know many of the top specialists in the country as well. And so what I've done is I've invited these doctors to be on our panel. We have at the moment 50 specialists. But I think that number will actually increase because we're getting a lot of interest being shown in various specialties. So I'm sure that over the next 6 months that may increase from 50 up to 100 specialists. And that gives a broad range of service, a broad range of specialty that we're covering.
Right. How do you ensure unbiasedness? Do these doctors then say, well, that opinion was wrong, you should come and see me instead, things like that?
Actually, it's a very important area to consider, that these doctors are not going to be hungry for business. These doctors are all senior, they're all well experienced, of course, and giving an opinion to them is going to be giving a service to a patient. They're not just looking to get another patient on their books, as it were. And so I think it's very important that as I invite these doctors to join our team, I do so with the knowledge that these are the kind of doctors who are going to be giving this service of unbiasedness. Obviously, if the patient does like the opinion and wishes to be treated by the doctor, then of course that can also be arranged for them. But that's not the intent. The intent is to give opinion first. Okay.
Now, does it contravene with any acts? I'm just thinking that, most of the time that you need to see a doctor, you've still got to meet them face to face.
We make it very clear, of course, that a second opinion is just that. It's an opinion. There is no hands-on, so the doctor doesn't get the opportunity to give a physical examination. So we do urge the patient, once they've been given an opinion, to go back to their primary doctor and then seek further advice should they wish to get that from their doctor. It is very important to know that. But sometimes with the type of specialties that we're doing, the decision and the opinion can be made by using images, medical images. And so on the portal, or behind the portal, we've actually put some very significant technology which allows medical images to be moved very quickly so that our doctors get to see pictures which are as clear as one would see in a radiology department in a hospital. But they will see it on their tablet, on their PC, on their laptop, wherever they might be, so they can give this opinion in a very short period of time. It's very important not to delay giving an opinion to a patient when they're worried about something.
Right, and how fast is the turnaround then?
Well, we've set off with a KPI of 72 hours. However, if a patient does wish to get an opinion faster than that, we can effect a faster opinion. But we're setting our first KPI at 72 hours.
Okay. Do you think there'll be any cases down the road where the patient says, well, my doctor says this and now you say this, and then they go back to their doctor and then this might cause an issue?
Well, the fact they want an opinion in the first place, obviously they do want to either have it confirmed or they want an alternative. What has been found in America is that patients going for second opinion, it's not unusual for an alternative treatment to be recommended and that they follow that newly recommended treatment. We're not there to try and show that anyone is wrong. In fact, so many people are doing a great job. But I think the normal human inquisitiveness now is changing, and the culture in Malaysia is changing, and people are beginning to ask more questions. So this just allows them to go and ask that question. But yes, you're right, Freda. They may well get a conflict. The opinion may be different from the first, in which case the patient has to make a decision which course they would like to follow.
All right. Okay. Does this contravene with any of the acts in Malaysia, medical acts in Malaysia at all?
I think the simple answer is no. The acts tend to be there to ensure that healthcare delivery is done in a particular way. This is not healthcare delivery. This is an opinion. So the one area that we do look at very carefully is that of what would be called telemedicine, for example, where one has to ensure that the doctors giving the advice are properly trained and are licensed appropriately in Malaysia. And secondly, that the information we're handling is done in a secure and confidential manner.
Okay, so and is this service only for Malaysians though?
No, the portal we've set up actually is a global platform. It's a global portal. We're already seeing, and we opened this up 2 months ago, we've already seen 32 countries visit our site. So we can begin to see through the analytics programs that there is great interest being shown in a number of countries. The top 4 countries at the moment, of course, are Malaysia. Secondly is Philippines. Philippines has a tremendous amount of interest coming in. Indonesia, of course, and we would have expected Indonesia to be interested in this. And the United Kingdom. In 5th place is Russia.
Oh, okay, Russia.
So we're seeing already tremendous interest being shown from around the world. And for me, it gives great pride to be able to show that actually Malaysian medicine is at a very high level.
Right.
I've always advocated that Malaysian healthcare is at international levels. And of course, what we're doing is just flying the flag a little bit more for Malaysian healthcare.
Do you think this will also lead to medical tourism in a way when they say decide they like this opinion and they'll actually fly down? Do we see that kind of numbers happening?
I think there is no doubt. The more we do to highlight the skill sets of our hospitals and doctors here, the more likely it is that patients from other countries will come here. The affordability of Malaysia is such that it makes sense to come here if you trust the services being provided. So we must take those steps to really install that trust in people. So one of the other things we're doing with our portal is we're putting education into this as well. So with a number of our doctors, we're personally interviewing on film these doctors on particular aspects of medicine, and we're posting it on our YouTube channel. So the public can not only get to hear our doctors, but can see our doctors as well. And I think this is going to add a tremendous amount of trust to the type of doctors that we do have here in Malaysia and what they're able to provide.
Right. So will you be looking for doctors from other countries? We'll discuss that in just a moment. I'm here with Stuart Pack from Medical Opinion Asia, BFM 89.9. Open for Business is brought to you by the Malaysia Digital Economy Corporation. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Bring forth money. BFM 89.9.
And we're back. Open for Business is brought to you by the Malaysia Digital Economy Corporation, MDEC. Good morning, this is Freda Liu. I'm here with Stuart Pack. We're talking about Medical Opinion Asia, which is an online portal with a panel of doctors and specialists, and it plans to be an easy solution for anyone looking for a second opinion from the comfort of their home with all the privacy in tow. So right now, their doctors are from Malaysia. Are there plans to expand this to doctors outside Malaysia?
I think the first thing, Freda, is that the doctors that are on the team all have their own connections to various hospitals or medical centres of high quality in other countries, so that if a patient does want an opinion from overseas, then that can be actually managed quite easily through our doctors. I think the more important area that we're looking at, of course, is how this is going to grow. We're already looking at 3 specific countries, which we will probably put a representative office into those countries because they are expressing interest. First, of course, is Indonesia. China obviously becomes a natural to look at. But we're also looking at countries like Bangladesh. The requirement of patients from Bangladesh is something that we must meet because at the moment a number of people from there are traveling to other countries for healthcare. Right. And we hope that by providing this service and by putting a representative office, say, into Dhaka, we're able to attract patients not only through our portal for getting an opinion, but probably, as you mentioned just now, for medical tourism as well, to actually bring those patients over to Malaysia for healthcare. Right. So actually this does lead itself on to medical tourism. Not that that was the primary concern. The primary concern was to actually give access to our doctors for patients. But if they wish treatment to be carried out, then yes, we hope that it will attract them to come to Malaysia.
Right. So, and Medical Opinion Asia has been around for 2 months, right? Is it going to be a bit of a challenge in changing consumer behavior where we go to Google for medical advice, and because this is where you actually have to pay a fee? Do you think that's going to be a bit of a challenge?
Well, people will always go to Google. Google actually has some very positive aspects when it comes to healthcare. It does give people an opportunity to learn more about what their problems are. As far as solutions to their problems, that's where one has to be a little cautious of what they see on Google. We are charging for this service. We're charging an amount that would be similar to what you would pay if you went to see a specialist in a clinic. But at the same time, it's done in a way that it's non-threatening, it's done from the home and so on. We feel that's not a real problem because it's very affordable, particularly to those who are in other countries. We've seen, for example, in America, for an opinion you may be paying anywhere from $300 United States dollars, US dollars, up to $3,000 for an opinion. Right. Malaysia, we're not at that level. Right. So that in itself is going to be attractive to patients from other countries.
Okay. So it's 320 ringgit.
It's 320 ringgit.
And that fee, I guess, is split between the doctors and yourself?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
So, and, it's only been 2 months. There's some success stories that you can share with us.
Yes, we've already had a number of patients who have inquired. Even yesterday I was on the phone to somebody in Java who was asking for an opinion from a cardiac surgeon. Because of the technology we're using, it means that we can actually communicate with doctors very quickly. An example was a patient with a very nasty torn ligament of the knee. He is a young athletic person. He had already got 2 opinions here. Both were conflicting, and he was confused. So we had the MRI of his knee, which we uploaded into our cloud. And with that, we were able to then give him access to his own MRI. But he could share it if he wanted to. But more importantly, we shared it with 2 of our doctors to get an opinion for him. But the technology we're using allows this patient to share that MRI with any doctor in the world if he should wish. And what he did was he shared it with a relative in Germany who shared it with a professor of orthopedics in Zurich. And as a result, the professor in Zurich offered treatment to him, which he took within 2 days of being given that opinion. That is the great thing about the technology we're using, that we have very sophisticated technology for moving medical images. so we can get these opinions not only locally very quickly, but from almost anywhere in the world where there's an internet connection.
Right. And if we talk about 320 ringgit, what kind of interactions are we talking about? How many toing and froing will there be?
Actually, because this is an opinion, it'll be based on a medical report that has already been provided, and also X-rays, MRIs, CT scans that have been carried out. And in which case, it's a one-way process. The medical reports are uploaded, a questionnaire is completed online, and the images, if they have, are uploaded at the same time. Then our doctor will look at those and then will pass an opinion straight away on that. So it's a single action that is taking place.
Are there plans to rate these doctors?
Yes, there are. QA is very important to us. And yes, we'll be watching the opinions that go back to the patients. We'll also be encouraging patients to give us feedback as well and to let us know how they felt about the opinion and whether or not the opinion helped them in making their own decisions. What we're trying to do is to help patients make some critical decisions.
Okay. In these conversations or interactions with customers, is it via email? Is it via live chat? What sort of communication are we expecting?
At the early stage, it's by email, or actually it's a response from the doctor which goes straight back to the patient. We have the ability and the technology to take the next step, which we will be doing later, which will be video conferencing as well. And we will even be moving into possibly consultation online. Yes, those are our plans for the future.
Okay, so, and in terms of the fields covered at the moment, what are the fields covered?
Well, the fields tend to be those where medical images play a large part in diagnosing a patient's problem. So if you start from the top and work down, it's areas like neurosurgery, neurology, cardiac surgery, cardiology, pancreatic cancers and liver cancers, of course, which are big in this region. That is also covered. Orthopedics, because all of the bone structure is easily seen on whether it's X-ray or an MRI. But interestingly, last week we did an interview with one of our doctors who is very different, and this is on memory loss, dementia, and Alzheimer's. And we realized that as we put this platform together, there are other specialties that can come on board as well. I've taken this particular area because it's an area that now many people are talking about and are a little bit confused about. When is memory loss natural, or where is it a problem? Dementia and Alzheimer's, what's the difference? So we interviewed our doctor. That is now on our YouTube channel. If I could just mention, the YouTube channel is Medical Opinion Asia. So all you do is go into that and you'll see our channel of interviews. So the doctor has gone to great lengths to explain the difference between these three areas and what families can do to help each other when you may suspect somebody in the family has got a memory loss problem. You see, Freda, what I think happens often is that the families may have that problem, but they don't know which way to turn, who to go to, what kind of doctor looks after this. So that is why we're taking the step to try and help the public understand more about some of these problems.
Right.
So this was our most recent. We only posted it just a couple of days ago, and already we have a few hundred views. So.
Okay, there are other apps as well, like BookDoc and all that. Do you see it being collaborative or competitive?
I don't think they're either. They're quite different products. What we're doing is linking specialists to patients with opinions to help patients make decisions. Of course, if the patient does want to see the doctor, yes, we can effect an appointment and then the patient goes to see the doctor and for treatment. But as I mentioned just now, that's not the primary concern. Our concern has been that patients want to know more about their illness and they don't know which way to turn. So this is what we're facilitating, and it's a little different from those other programs you just mentioned.
Right, and I know there are future plans to work with insurance companies and corporations as well, and we'll discuss that in just a moment. I'm here with Stuart Pack from Medical Opinion Asia, BFM 89.9. Open for Business is brought to you by the Malaysia Digital Economy Corporation. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
Break from midfield, BFM 89.9.
And we're back. Open for Business is brought to you by the Malaysia Digital Economy Corporation, MDEC. Good morning, this is Freda Liu. In case you just joined us, I'm here with Stuart Pack from Medical Opinion Asia, which is an online portal which started 2 months ago. And this online portal has a panel of doctors and specialists, and it plans to be a solution for anyone looking for a second opinion from the comfort of their home with all the privacy in tow. So the idea right now is, of course, the individual customers, individual patients, but you're also looking and collaborating with insurance companies and corporations. How do you plan to do that?
Yes, in fact, when we first set out, it was primarily to offer this service to the communities worldwide. But we found very quickly that there is interest also being shown from the insurance companies and the corporate world. The insurance companies already had endorsed this. Again, I go back to the healthcare system in the United States, where the insurance companies have been using second opinion services, either to help them in making decisions about whether or not a patient should go for a given treatment, or when they've had a treatment is to look at what's been done and to see whether or not it's appropriate. So we've started to talk to insurance companies here, and there's been significant interest that has been shown. So 2 in particular at the moment we're working closely with, and they're looking at 2 different things. One is how they may incorporate second opinion as part of a product, and that's a sellable product to the client. The other, of course, is to help them in making decisions about treatments that have been given and whether or not the cost of those treatments is appropriate. And where possible, an opinion is given before the treatment is given. So again, they're getting the best treatment at the most appropriate price. So the insurance companies are looking at this in different ways. We see that probably this is going to grow even faster than communicating with the general public. And equally with the corporate world. A large corporation with thousands of employees will have their own medical department and often their own doctor. And these doctors will need to turn to somebody, sometimes for an opinion, before an employee goes for their health care as well. So we're already working with 1 or 2 of the large corporations to work with their human resource departments and with their company doctors.
Okay, and how have you been marketing this?
Well, digital marketing becomes the first stage of actually making sure that we are visible. So through our portal, we have done certain things to ensure that we're visible. Most importantly, of course, is that the portal is an easy portal to use. So we've actually managed to get feedback from different countries of how people think our portal looks and feels. So far, the response has been very positive. We've also been using YouTube as a means of getting the message across. On our portal, we put a short cartoon just to try and explain what a second opinion is all about. That now has been viewed. I think today we've accessed 80,000 views on that in itself. But we've put that on our channel along with our doctor interviews. So this is, again, another way of getting ourselves visible to the potential clients, and we'll continue to do that. There will be some knocking on doors as well. GPs are also another group that may well be interested in such a service. But that takes knocking on doors. You can't do that through digital means.
And just looking at the Malaysian landscape, do you see a large number of individual patients coming more from the rural areas where there are less availability of specialists as opposed to the urban areas?
Actually, it's an interesting question, Freda, because the people in the rural areas may not be so savvy with the IT world. Because one does have to know how to get onto a portal or get online, as it were, in order to use this service. But as we have seen, the internet penetration now is so good in Malaysia, we do expect the rural areas to pick up on this. And yes, you're absolutely right. Patients who don't have access to specialists may well come on to start asking questions from our specialists. Of course, in the cities, people are more likely to use the service, but I think it's early days, and we'll be watching very carefully the geographical spread of interest and to see where people are really coming on board from.
And is there anyone that shouldn't use it? Do you feel that it's more that people should come only with a second opinion, or even just come to you with the first opinion?
Well, they can do both, and there's no problem in that. It's only that with a first opinion, or having not been to see a doctor before, they won't have the opportunity for personal contact with the doctor. So the doctor can't actually examine them, which is a very important part of trying to learn about a patient's illness. That is why we advocate that this is a second opinion or a medical opinion process, which is on top of something that has already been said or done.
Okay, and you talked a little bit about the technology behind it, and was that the largest investment in terms of setting this up, the technology behind?
Yes, I think if you look at investment for a company like this, actually it's not a huge investment. There's more intellectual investment needed in this. The group of doctors, of course, you can't put a value on that. It's exceedingly valuable. The technology we use, yes, it's in-house developed technology, and the technology for moving the images is one that we are working with a company with using this exclusively in this country. So we're very lucky to be able to do that. But yes, you're right. The capital investment is not high for a new startup like this.
Okay, what's that vision when you know you've reached, you've achieved what you want to do with Medical Opinion Asia?
I think the first is we continue to look at the visibility we have and the people who are looking at us and asking us questions. And secondly, of course, it has to be the revenue source and the revenue flow. And I don't expect to see that happening for the first 6 months. I think the first 6 months is placing ourselves into the public eyes and getting them to ask questions and know more about what we're doing. And I think the biggest challenge to us is ensuring that we have the trust of the community or the trust of the insurance companies or the corporate world that what we're doing is special and is of value.
Right. Are there plans for an app for this at the moment?
Yes, we're currently working on two things. Already we're working on our second version of our portal because we see the B2B component to this being actually quite large. So the original was a B2C. Now we see the B2B being of great interest, so we're already now working on our version 2. And along with that, yes, the app will come along as well for Medical Opinion Asia.
And what fields of expertise are you hoping to add in the next couple of years?
It's interesting because if you look at where do the public go to find a doctor when they need a doctor, you start to go back to, well, where were they when they wanted to find a doctor? The other day I was in an optometrist shop and asking, where do you send your patients when you find that there is actually an eye problem that you can't deal with but a doctor has to deal with? And so you start to realize that actually there are a lot of areas where the potential source needs to be tapped. We need to actually be there to help people. So you start to realize that ophthalmic surgeons need to come on board. I mentioned memory loss, so we have people who do memory loss or geriatricians coming on board. I just don't see this closing to just a small number of specialties. This is going to grow to quite a few.
Right. So you talk about your plans for the next couple of years. So what can we see in 2017 anyway?
Well, this is digital healthcare. As we see, digital disruption is disrupting everything, none the least healthcare. And I think where we can tap technology to help the patient or the patient's family, we should do that. And I think that is what our venture is. So looking into the next few years, I think more is going to be done from the patient's house using things like smartphones, laptops, PCs, and less in the need of actually going along to a hospital where most people are still afraid to go. Obviously, nothing is going to move away from the fact that a doctor does have to examine a patient in order to treat them. But where we can close this gap, I give an example, if I may, Freda. At the moment, patients are taking their own readings at home for blood sugar, for blood pressure, whatever. They store it all up on either an app or they put it on a piece of paper. And when they next see a doctor, they take those along for the doctor to look at. I think the future is going to be that you won't have to leave the house. Everything you do in the house with these pieces of technology are automatically going to be linked to a care provider somewhere, so that you don't have to go out and drive to your nearest doctor to say, here are my results for the last month.
Right.
And we want to be very much a part of closing that gap. And again, in talking to a number of technology companies, they're also keen to be a part of that move forward as well.
All right. Thanks for being with us. Stuart Pack from Medical Opinion Asia, Enterprise BFM 89.9. Thank you for listening. Open for Business is brought to you by the Malaysia Digital Economy Corporation, MDEC, championing Malaysia's digital economy. Find more great episodes over at bfm.my.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To find more great interviews, go to bfm.my or find us on iTunes. BFM 89.9.